Welcome back to the show, everybody. We always talk about the Aaron Judges of the world. We always talk about Shohei Ohtani, the race to 40-40. How quickly can we do it? And a lot of times when we talk about Major League Baseball talent that is able to play 10 plus years in the big leagues, parts of 14 seasons at least, man, it's incredible. So today, my guest is very special to me. Dude showed me how to work hard. This dude is a top tier pro. This dude is also the epitome of hard work, and he is one to show and prove to everybody that is grinding to be a Major League Baseball player and have longevity that anything is possible. Anything is possible. It is an absolute honor today to introduce to you guys Willie Bloomquist, head coach of the Arizona State Sun Devils. Willie, what's going on, man?
Oh, I appreciate the introduction. You're making me sound better than I am, I guess. But happy to
No
have
chance.
to be on your show, and yeah, great to reconnect with you. It's been too long, but I'm happy to be back and connect with you.
Absolutely. So obviously, man, you are entering your fourth year as the head coach at the helm. Man, we're looking for good things this year. Obviously, you are in a big position. You guys are just kind of getting started with classes. You guys are getting back on the field with practices. Man, what is life like for you as you're entering the fourth season?
It's extremely busy, and I'll be the first to admit. The landscape is completely different than what I thought I was signing up for when I took this job. Obviously, I love Arizona State. I love being here. This program is very near and dear to my heart, and has taught me and given me the building blocks for a lot of successes in my life, which I'm very appreciative of. And that's the reason I decided to leave retirement to come back here and take over this gig, to have an impact on these kids and hopefully give them every bit of good as experience as I had when I was here, if not better. And help influence hopefully the rest of their lives, and give them a good foundation for what they'll embark upon in pro ball, which is ultimately the goal here when they leave here. So, but when I signed up to take this job, there was no transfer portal. There was no NIL.
Mm,
It was just good old fashioned college sports where in 3 years, the landscape changed. And so I think me and a lot of other coaches out there are still trying to figure this out, on how this all works, and ultimately, stay within the rules, which some some walk that chalk line, but I always try to stay within the rules of how this sport is supposed to work and designed to work, and ultimately just keep influencing these kids and moving forward. So that being said, life's very busy. I'm adjusting to the landscape, at the same time trying to influence these young men.
Man, I'd love to give a shout out to a partner of mine, the sponsor of today's stream, OTU Baseball Curriculum. So if you check out otubaseball.com, these guys are bringing baseball development and baseball education to wherever you're at. Whether you're a grassroots baseball player just trying to learn the concepts of baseball, or you are, you're a talented baseball player that knows everything about the game. You just need to freshen up, brush up on your baseball IQ, man. Taught by professionals, Olympians, that can teach your game, that can elevate your game, teach you the concepts that you think you thought you knew, but you really don't know. These guys can help you out. Check out otubaseball.com. Tell them Ian from the Nine Hole sent you. They'll love that. Moving on to the show. So you're 90 and 81 so far in your three seasons, man. Obviously, like we said, big things coming this year. Really looking forward to seeing the continued success, man. So what's your take on the NIL money, man? What's your take on the transfer portal? Do you think it's beneficial to these kids, helping them grow as young men and going into the future? Like, obviously some are kind of 50-50 on it. Do you think it is good for the game? Do you think it's kind of good for development, for opportunity, obviously, man? Like, what are you thinking?
I'm mixed on it, if I'm being
Okay.
perfectly honest. For me, it's do I think these young men deserve some sort of compensation? Absolutely. I think for it was very difficult being in our position, only having 11.7 scholarships, which now obviously that's changed as well. But going back to being able to tell a parent, we really want your kid, but we need you to come out of pocket $25,000 for your kid to come here. That was awful difficult for us to do. But now that they've increased the scholarship limits, I'm excited that hopefully we can get all of our kids on, so we're not paying for school, to come here and get their education. Um, you know, is it fair for them to get paid a little bit? I think with the TV revenues that a lot of these conferences have, and schools are having, yeah, absolutely. I think they should get a piece of that pie. Um, has it gotten out of control? Absolutely. It's gotten ridiculous where there are this is professional sports almost to the next level. And a lot of things where you know the design of this was for kids to get a little bit more comfortable and have a little bit better lifestyle when they were here at college. However, everybody bends the rules and tries to take advantage of everything, and ultimately, these kids are making 6, 7 figures. Some of them in college sports. Is that what college sports was designed for? And amateur sports, for me, and maybe I'm a little old school, but I man, yeah, I think they should get something, but some of this stuff's getting a little ridiculous, and it ultimately ends up to where the wealthier schools pull the best players. And again, is that what college sports was designed for? I thought it was supposed to be parity and fairness across the board, and ultimately it's boiling down
Mm.
to some conferences, not to mention them, but they're a lot wealthier than the rest of the conferences. And so what you're having is a lot of these kids gravitating toward those specific schools. And um, you know we're kind of, how do you compete with that when you have that many dollars compared to not a lot? So is that the fairness of college sports? Man, I can't answer that question. I have my own opinions on it, but um, should the kids get something? Yeah, of course. But when they're other schools are backdooring you and offering kids a lot of money behind your back to steal them away from you, I think that's BS.
100% agree, man. Could not agree any more with what you're saying. Man, I went to Wagner College, right? So I was a walk on at Wagner College, small D1 school. And man, I would have loved to have transferred. I would have loved to have gone to another D1 school. We were playing UCF, playing schools like Hawaii. Man, it would have been so cool to have just leave and go somewhere else. Obviously, like I would have needed a red shirt. I would have needed to sit out. So that at least made me remain loyal. Obviously, with these players being able to kind of flip flop and go from school to school, an opportunity to NIL opportunity, right? Like to make money. Man, it's almost the college baseball you know, free agent market. It's crazy.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. Can you imagine if Major League Baseball had free agency every year? How it would look. Essentially, this is kind of what it's turned into, where kids can jump ship and transfer, and I don't fully know that's what the transfer portal was designed for. And again,
Mm,
everyone's going to take advantage of the rules, and I get that. But I think it was designed for those kids that, hey, man, it's not a great fit for you here. You're not getting the playing time that you want. Let's get you somewhere where you can play, that type of thing. I don't think it was necessarily designed for, let me jump ship, make more money over here for a year, and then go to the next place for a year, and then the next place for a year. I don't know if that's what it was designed for. And to me, that takes again, maybe I'm a little too traditional, but it takes the whole, college vibe out of things, and
yeah.
being loyal to your school, and having those deep rooted, heartfelt, traditional rivals, and knowing what it means to be, in this case, means to be a Sun Devil, right? And having
Yep.
that pride in your program, and keeping that throughout your life. That to me is what the college experience is. A lot of it is about.
Yep. Fires me up, man. I feel the exact same way. I love it. Man, I always, so when I'm talking to my audience, the next generation of 9 hole hitters, the dudes that aren't the first rounders, that aren't 6'5", that throw 102 miles an hour, they're not full ride SEC dudes. I talk about facing adversity head on, man. Like when I met you, when I was like fortunate enough to be rehabbing my back injury, right? 2014 going into 2015, you were recovering from a knee, right? You had just had gotten knee surgery, man. So that's when I got to meet you. At that point in your career, man. You had already dominated. You had longevity in the big leagues. You were a proven utility player, man. And so I saw how you were dealing with adversity and how you kind of taught me to deal with adversity, man. To be quite frank with you, I worry that these kids are maybe able to transfer away from adversity, right? Think about the stuff that you had to overcome when you were grinding in the pool right? At 7 a.m., on a Wednesday, rehabbing your knee and stuff, running in the whirlpool stuff. Man, I don't know. And that's in the good graces of a spring training facility, right? But I feel like if some kids are like, man, I just got injured, I might have to transfer away from here in order to, get a better opportunity. They do that and they don't face it head on.
When you look at, I guess, the overall landscape of our sports and generational, there's still great kids out there. And I think when we, not speaking for anybody else, but when we recruit kids, we also try to recruit the families as well. What kind of families are they? How have they been raised? Because that's important to me that, has this kid played on 16 different travel teams? Is he bouncing around? Has he been to 4 high schools? To me, that shows, are you jumping for the next greener grass pasture out there, or are you loyal to what you're doing and been raised the right way? And I think when you talk about adversity, man, this game, I don't know anybody in this game that hasn't been punched in the mouth and knocked on their butt right from this game. And that's what I think baseball teaches you more so than really any other sport out there. Is it's a sport of failure, and you're going to have to deal with adversity at some point in time. And you don't deal with adversity by running from it. You got to deal with it head on and understand that it's okay to get knocked on your butt. It happens. Everybody has been knocked on their ass a time or two, and it's how you get back up and keep going is what defines the man or the woman, and in a lot of cases. So you have to keep going and strive to learn from the adversity, learn from your failures, and keep going forward. And if you think this life and this world that we live in is going to take it easy on you, man, you're crazy, right? And so in this game, when you face failure, when you face injuries, when you face not performing your best, how do you respond to that? Are you looking for a way out to go cry? Well, if you're going to run from adversity now, you're going to run from it the rest of your life, man. Learn how to face it head on, learn how to learn from it, accept your failures, accept your shortcomings, and say, okay, this is where I got to get better. If you ever want to be the best and play against the best, man, you're going to have to learn how to do that. And, that's what I try to preach to our guys here is adversity is coming, boys. It's a matter of when, not a matter if, it's a matter of when. How are you going to respond to it when that happens? I want the guys that are willing to chew your kneecaps off to beat you. Give me those type of kids, ones that want to keep grinding and going after you, and we'll be just fine with those type of kids.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, man. I'm getting fired up just hearing that, man. So parts of 14 seasons in the big leagues, obviously, like I alluded to, overcoming adversity was, something that was big in your career, right, man? I love it. I love it. I love it. What was the best part of your 14-year career?
The thing that I take away from playing after 14 years is mostly the relationships of the people that I've met. I think that's the coolest part of being able to do what I was able to do for as long as I was able to do it. At that point in time, and you kind of touched on it, I wasn't able to really sit back and relax and enjoy things very often because I had to keep grinding in order to keep up with those guys that were way better than me. For me, it was a mental grind every single day that mentally I had to be extremely sharp every day in order to compete with the best in the world for that long. I wasn't as talented as them. I'll be the first to admit it. I had to grind my way to stay there. And the minute I let myself mentally not be sharp, man, those guys run over me. And they still ran over me even a lot when I was mentally sharp. But in order to stay there for as long as I had to be on my game, mentally every day. But I think the best moments for me were, you played for 4 great organizations: the Mariners, the Royals, Reds for a short stint, D-backs, and then back with the Mariners. But I think the most fun for me was probably clinching the division with the Diamondbacks in 2011. That team that I was on was a bunch of guys like me, overachievers, under talented. They picked us to finish last in that division, that year going into that season. We had a manager, Kirk Gibson, who I loved to death, is an amazing individual who believed in me as a player and gave me the opportunity to play every day for the first time in my career, and ended up playing shortstop most every day that year and clinched the division, hit leadoff And we beat some good teams that year. The Giants were good. The Dodgers were obviously good. And we snuck up on the world and won the division, which was that was a pretty defining moment, and least enjoyable moment, when our team was that type of team that overachieved and had a bunch of players that are not household names. I can go around the diamond and list them all off, and people be like, "Who?" Yeah. That team won the division, which was pretty cool.
Amazing, man. I remember your warm up. I remember that we would do the bike together, right? I never did cardio. I'm coming back from a lower back injury. You're coming back from a knee, and you show me your warm up before you go to work out. And I remember doing your warm up on the bike, which was like ascending, right? I still try to emulate it a little bit, right? You would go 40 minutes, keep the heart rate at like 80, and then I don't even know kind of how to explain it, man, but you would do the sprint interval, right? Going up in level and difficulty and then coming back down. I remember throwing up multiple times from doing that bike thing with you on your warm up, right? It's incredible. That's kind of where I saw like the grinder type of like work ethic, at least in professional baseball, man. Like I felt like I was always surrounded by dudes that were like first rounders and kind of like studs up until that point. I kind of see how you have carved out, a decade plus already at this time with hard work.
You were the young buck, spry, wet behind the ears, talented young man, and I said, I was full of piss and vinegar at the end of my career and still trying to prove people wrong, because they said I wouldn't play again after my knee surgery. And I was like, well, you watch, I'll be back by spring training next year and be ready to run. And so I had a little chip on my shoulder still, about trying to prove people wrong, and had a little bit of pent up anger inside me, and wanted to make sure everybody knew that I wasn't done yet. And to me, but at the end of the day, man, that's what, the competitive nature, I think that obviously benefited me, is that I always was out, I was always doubted, and people would always kind of, say I wasn't good enough for this or that. And for me, having that chip on my shoulder and being able to prove people wrong through hard work and just that kind of will and work ethic, that I'm not going to fail, man. I'm going to figure out a way to get this done. And for me at that stage of my career, it was kind of my duty, I guess, is the way I took it, is to hopefully rub off on, the next generation of up and comers like yourself at that point in time. The Paul Goldschmidts, the Adam Joneses, those kids that I was able to have some type of influence on by, yeah, you're talented, dude, but talent gets you only so far. And then comes the hard work and the work ethic and those type of things that separate you from everybody else. So, and again, those guys that are that talented, good for you. I wasn't one of those guys. I had to work harder.
100%, man. If you could kind of go back and do anything different, like would you?
Yeah, everybody would have, I guess, go back and wish you could have performed better. I don't think, I don't think anybody on the planet would not say that. I think I could have gotten a few more hits or could have made a few more plays or whatever. I think knowing what I know now, and again, maybe it works out differently, and maybe I don't spend that much time as I was able to if I enjoyed it more. I guess I don't want to say it's even a regret, because that's not the right word, but if I knew that I was going to play as long as I did, I would have tried to enjoy it a little bit more along the way, instead of putting so dang much pressure on myself. I wish I could have managed that a little bit better with the amount of pressure that I did put on myself on a daily basis. However, maybe if I didn't do that, maybe I wouldn't have played as long as I did. So I think there was always that edge of having to show up and be ready to compete every day. And a lot of times that made me a little bitter. Is, I didn't get the name Bitter Bill for nothing when I played, but for me, it was one of those things that I had to be that way in order to be successful. If I could go back and do it again, I would have tried to enjoy some things a little bit more, and see some other parts of cities that I got a chance to be in a little bit more. But I wouldn't have changed anything about the work ethic and the desire to compete the way that I did, and the preparation. I wouldn't have changed a single thing about it.
So man, parts of 14 seasons. That's absolutely incredible. I was up in the big leagues for a month and a week, right? And I feel like with my skill set, just being a fast guy that could play defense, like I maximized everything that I had. I feel like I squeezed every drop of it out that I could. Obviously, if I could go back and do stuff different, I would do some stuff different as well, right? Take more chances, all that good stuff. In your mind, playing how long you've played, what's the difference between the people that have longevity in the big leagues and then people that maybe just
Well,
get
I
a day
think
or a week or a month there?
there was a lot of good players that I played with over the years that just never got a chance because they were stuck behind Paul Goldschmidt or stuck behind somebody that was pretty dang good, right? And maybe if they were with a different organization, they were big leaguers, right? And maybe they played a long time with that organization. But for me, I'm a perfect example of when I was getting ready to crack into the big leagues, I was behind a dude named Brett Boone, that was hitting 35 homers and driving in 140, and I'm like, dude, I'm not that good. I don't put up those kind of numbers. You look over at shortstop, there's Carlos Guillen. You look over at third base, there's Jeff Cirillo, and you look in center field, there's Mike Cameron. I'm like, okay, where am I going to play if I'm going to be a big leaguer, right? So I had to adjust my game into being a guy that was able to play all positions in order to kind of give those guys a breather and a day off, at least to crack into the big leagues. The one thing that I was, very fortunate, I guess, was that I didn't have an ego when it came to that. I understood that those guys were veterans and were pretty good, and it's my job to go up there and try to find my way into the lineup wherever I can and be willing to do whatever it takes to get into a lineup. I think the speed aspect that I had once upon a time was a big factor, and the fact that I could play shortstop was a big factor. So, which at least allowed me to hang around, for quite a while until I was able to get some opportunities to play more consistently.
Fires me up, man. You had mentioned Brett Boone. Booney was on the podcast not too long ago, man. That's big time. I love all that, how it plays into your story, man. So when we're talking about what the best players in the world do from everybody else, obviously we have talent, opportunity, right? Luck is going to be on your side and stuff, but what separates the best players in the world from the ones that are kind of average?
Everybody's going to fail in this game, and everybody's going to deal with adversity. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Babe Ruth. I don't care if you're A-Rod. I don't care if you're Yachty Molina. Like, you are going to fail at some point in time, and it's how you deal with it. A lot of guys that are extremely talented just can't deal with the failure and can't deal with the fact that you fail 7 out of 10 times and you're still pretty good, and how to adjust to it. So I think that's the mindset. It has to be number one. Number two would have to be the consistency and work ethic, and staying on a routine through the good times and through the bad times. Understanding who you are as a player. People don't often see the hours of preparation behind the scenes. They just see the product during the game and on the field. They don't see the hours and hours and hours of preparation, tee work and flip work and BP behind the scenes of refining your swing. Those type of things that man, everybody is doing it. It's the matter of being the most consistent over time. Are the guys that play the longest and are the best guys over time. And now, obviously some guys are a little bit better on that spectrum over the course of time, which is we play 162 games in a season, right? So over the length of that year, that's why the guys that put up the big numbers every single year are just fractionally better consistently than everybody else, right? And I remember talking to Edgar Martinez and asked him, how do you hit 350 every year? And he goes, because I don't miss my pitch as often as everybody else does. When I get my one pitch to hit every at bat, I don't miss it as often as everybody else. And it kind of resonated with me. I'm like, wow. So he's like, I only get one pitch in at bat to hit in the big league level usually, but I'm ready for it and I don't miss it. Whereas everybody else might just foul it off or be on time and just miss it a little bit, where he goes, I don't miss it as often. Over the course of time, that's why you hit 360. So, learned a lot from a lot of those tremendous players.
That's awesome. Love hearing the legends, hearing those stories with the legends, man. That's big time. You're incredible. Absolutely incredible, man. So, man, when we talk to baseball players coming up, youth baseball players, high school, college, obviously, the higher you go up, the more you specialize with your skill set. You focus on a position, what you're good at, right? If you're able to play multiple positions, I wasn't. I could play all three outfield spots, but I couldn't necessarily move to the infield, especially at a high level, right? So when we talk about versatility, man, is that something that you incorporate to your like at your level with your players? Are you kind of telling players to be able to play multiple spots?
You have to have guys that are capable of playing multiple positions. I think that is extremely valuable, especially at the college level. But I think moving up the ranks, or just in general, being able to play the key positions is probably number one. Catcher, shortstop, center field, and of course, you can never have enough pitching. But I think those are always the key positions that people look at. If you're going to play one of the corners, and you better be able to bop. You better be able to really hit for some thump, and add some slugging percentage in there, in order to, because that's your, usually your one tool or one or two tools. But speed, and you can't ever teach speed, versatility and athleticism in the middle of the field. To me, that's always kind of what I think is key. For young guys growing up, obviously some guys are left-handed, right? So that limits where they can play on the field, where you're either going to be an outfielder or first baseman. So that's the case. You got to refine your hitting and that type of stuff, and be really good offensively. But for the most part, having the flexibility to bounce around obviously gives a coach or a manager the flexibility to be able to use you in different situations. And hey, that guy goes down. Yeah, I can play there, or I beat this guy out and he can move here. And it just allows for guys to stay around the game a lot longer, the more positions you can play.
So coming off the bench, let's say if you are a utility man in the big leagues, you have to be ready for anything, any position, anytime, right? Essentially, right? How would you stretch or warm up to prepare in getting out there, getting off the bench?
Hey, pinch run, we need a bag. Get in scoring position. Have to do it within the first three pitches. Like that's kind of what the unwritten rule was. If you're a base stealer coming off the bench, you got three pitches to get to second base. And so a lot of times doing that, the illusion is you're coming off cold off the bench, right? But for me, that's what made it so difficult being a bench guy. It was actually harder on my body when I wasn't playing, because I was continuously starting in inning two. I was going back in the cages and running and trying to keep my body loose along with the pace of the game. That's what the hard part is, when you're not out there moving around and then having to go mentally not not into a game and immediately get thrown right in the fire and then asked to change the game based on what you're doing right there. That's why pinch hitting is the toughest job on the planet. And being asked to do those things, you have to think along with the manager, B, know where you might be used and anticipate where it could come up so it doesn't catch you off guard, and then C, keep your body loose and warmed up and ready to go for 9 innings, and you may not get in, right? But guess what? You got a pretty dang good workout in behind the scenes and kept your body going. So it's not just sitting there eating sunflower seeds and chewing gum all game. To me, it was harder being a bench guy and not knowing when you're going to get plugged in, but you better be ready for every situation.
Yep, man. I love that, Willie. Thank you so much for your time, man. Thank you for letting me run you through the gauntlet here of questions, and coming on the show. It's an absolute honor to have a dude of your caliber, like I said, on the show.
Reason I'm doing this now is to, I guess, take all the experiences that I've had and my coaches have had and pour it into our players, and teach our players that, the next generation of guys that, you're the future of this game, right? And we ask our guys to control the controllables. Your mindset, your preparation, your effort level, your body language. If you go out and perform to the best of your ability, given those things, then I'll take the results however they fall. But in the meantime, it's our job to keep teaching these young men the right way, hopefully the right way, and continue to see who the next big leaguers are that come out of Arizona State. So, man, I'm anxious. I'm excited. Love what I'm doing. Love coaching these young men, and and continuing to prepare them for the next level. And Sun Devil baseball is on the right path. So I'm anxious for this season to get here.
Love that. Thanks so much, Coach. That is a professional right there, everybody. That is a professional right there. Willie Bloomquist, head coach, Arizona State. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.